And basically we did something on sports and it stuck. And just kind of the rationale was like, which I think people honestly miss out on TikTok because, and I'm going on a little bit of tangent, so you can feel free to cut me off wherever. But um, if you're consistently posting and focused on a niche, you will have a video that goes viral. There's no doubt in my mind. In all the accounts I've either worked on, started, or helped start, that's always the case. And with that initial video that goes viral, you're going to have an influx of followers that expect exactly what that initial video niche is. And you have to keep compounding on top of that. So my rationale was like, all right, I started with sports. Great. This is a sports account. That's it. That's final. And thankfully, I really like sports. So I continued on with that. And yeah, it's kind of history after that.
So that first video was you doing a simulated 2K game of the 96 Bulls and the 15 Warriors, right?
Correct. And the funniest part about that was I totally botched the text overlay. I think I said 97, 98 Bulls or 98, 99 Bulls. I think I said, yeah, I think it was 98, 99 or 98, 99. Anyways, it was a really bad Bulls team, but it like that I put the text on, but it was actually like the 97, championship Bulls playing against, I think it was the 2016 Warriors. Correct me if I'm wrong. So it was, it was a great matchup and it was just fun. We added some commentary. We placed these quote unquote bets. It was like $1, and we just had a lot of fun with it, and it blew up.
And was that a series or was that just one video?
Oh yeah, it became a massive series. Just again, I just kind of like, all right, we got to keep making these videos. Got to keep growing the audience. They really want to see these. People were asking for more. People were making already making suggestions of, oh, we want to see this team against this team, or we want to see, this player against this player in like a one-on-one sense. And really just kind of expanded to exactly that. We did teams versus teams. We did players versus players. We did 3v3. It was just so fun.
As you double down on the sports niche, but if you look at your account today, you're not doing those types of videos. So you still kind of had to transition your audience from you doing these simulated games with commentary and your reactions to now it's commentary, but not about simulated. It's commentary on news and things in sports culture. So how did you transition your audience from that type of content to this new type that you have?
First off, it was actually really scary because just that first account took so long to grow. And so I had no idea if I started making new content, would I lose followers? What would happen? What would be what would be the engagement? Would it be any different? So it was really scary, but I kind of slowly eased into it. I started making these videos. I think I did, talked about NBA legends' sons, and I talked about, I started doing like 2K ratings rather than just the games, and kind of these just slightly different forms of content, but still in the same space, right? Still basketball. And then over time, I would slowly just focus on just doing kind of stories of basketball and making these kind of lists. And then for a while, kind of what I was known for was like, what happened to so and so, it was and it really started with basketball, and then transitioned into football, and then kind of other sports, and then back to basketball, and then kind of became an amalgamation of everything. And started talking, doing stories. I absolutely love storytelling. And yeah, it just kind of wound up as that.
So you said it was a scary thing because you didn't know if your audience was going to stick with you. So at what point did you stop doing the simulated 2K games and things like that?
It was a slow turn. It was because I mean my output of content has always been crazy. It's always been like 2 to 3 to 4 posts a day just on that one account. Um, and I just kind of slowly started changing the ratios, and over time, it was like now it was fully just basketball content that wasn't 2K, and that just kind of took over the account.
And so you said that the reason that the account is a sports account today is because that basketball video, that first one, is what exploded. So prior to that, were you just posting anything and everything to see what sticks?
It's interesting actually. I had an account. I mean, in the very early days of TikTok, and I actually posted. I'll never forget it. I was in Beverly Hills, and I saw again. I love cars. I love everything cars, and I saw a LaFerrari, which is it's a pretty rare and very expensive Ferrari, and it kind of drove by and kind of gave me a little pull, had a nice sound. Anyways, I posted that, and it got like 100,000 views. I never forgot that. That was actually before this whole thing. So I kind of early on was like, okay, this is kind of interesting. I actually deleted that account and then restarted it and just started kind of, yeah, to your point, just started posting like random stuff. It was, saved Snapchat memories. It was older videos in my, just in my photo album on my phone. just kind of seeing what stuck, and just kind of having a general curiosity about this new, weird, quirky, emerging platform.
So what was it about that Bulls one that let it take off?
I had never seen a concept like that. I think I actually took some inspiration, I think, from YouTube. I think a long time ago, I had seen a similar kind of automated game, and people were just curious about the outcome, but nobody was doing like, high energy voiceovers or doing this whole like super funny, fun betting kind of style. So I think it was just, again, kind of an amalgamation of those things: high energy, quick pace, not super long, long form, because this was well before the, I think, even 30-second, well before at least a minute videos, where we could only do, I think, 15 to 30 seconds. So
What makes a good TikTok today? You said, keeping it short, like, because I know I just did for the last month, I was just want to kind of familiarize myself with the platform even more. So I posted 3 to 5 times a day for the month of October. And like one of the things I learned very quickly was watch time and shares are kind of the two biggest things I look for. So I'm curious, what are some of those things you look for when trying to make sure you make the best TikTok you can possibly make?
So those two things, yeah, those are absolutely important. I would say three specific things along with those things that come to mind initially are: having the first 2 to 3 seconds are so important to keep the eyes on your video. Has to be an engaging hook. It has to be high energy. You have to be cringy. You have to be like, people want to keep seeing you, whether it's for entertainment, educational, or cringe purposes. Just keeping eyes on your video is so important, so they don't keep swiping to the next video. Um, Number two is the comment section. An unfortunate amount of creators don't reply to their comments, and that's going to hurt them, because every comment you get, even if it's a reply to your reply to their initial comment, helps with the algorithm and keeps you on the For You page and keeps it pushing. So that's massively important. Then last but not least, um, is you have to focus on a niche. There are these massive creators, the Noah Beck and D'Amelios of the world, that can post whatever they want. If you're kind of an average Joe like me, you got to focus on something that you're passionate about, and the authenticity is going to follow. I mean, people will see that it's authentic because you're so passionate about it, and then they'll want to follow you for your perspective, your opinion, your insights, whatever it is. But you have to focus on a niche: sports, dancing, and it kind of goes back to that initial video, right? It's like, if I posted that sports video and blew up and started doing dancing videos, then that's not going to stick. Um, so focus on a niche for sure is the third.
What do you have to say to people who are concerned with picking a niche because then they're going to feel too boxed in?
Maybe a little blunt, but that's kind of your problem. If you don't love it, then why are you talking about it? Why are you doing it? Right? It's like, I could wake up every single day at 4 a.m. and go to bed at 2 a.m. and talk about sports. I love sports. I love cars. I love, nice homes and such. And I can never get old. It never gets old. Sometimes you get tired. You're at the end of the day, you hit the bed. And I'm like, I'm ready for bed. But I have so much, enthusiasm and energy and curiosity about sports stories and, crazy cool cars or celebrity garages and what cars people own, or what's in this crazy wild mansion in the Hamptons. And so those things just never get old to me.
And I should probably clarify that you're talking about cool cars and mansions. So you decided on top of your sports account, which is Adam P. Faris, to create two other TikTok accounts. You created Launch Mode, which is your car account, which is just under 1 million followers now. And you also created Mansion Talk, which was your third account, which is just talking about mansions and stuff like that. So what led to you creating these other two accounts? Was it not necessarily feeling boxed in, but wanting to talk about other things and now understanding more how the platform works, that you could create these two accounts? Like, what led to those two?
A multitude of things. But one of the things you mentioned is, I want to see if I could do it again. I want to see if I could kind of create another account and grow it. And what's crazy is that it was about halfway through my sports page that I started the Launch Mode account, the car one, and it grew 3 times as fast. I think within the first month, I passed what my initial following was on my sports account, my personal Adam P. Ferris account. Um, and then here comes Connor back into the story, back into the picture, as Connor kind of came to me and said, "Hey, we should try to scale this. We could do some sort of media company." And so that's where the Mansion Talk was born. And actually, we have 2 other accounts, about to be 3 other accounts. 2 other ones are run by 2 other creators. One's a yacht account, has about 25,000 followers. It's called Anchor Life, and kind of the same thing, just really interesting information and news on yachts, quirky features, etc. Another one is Sippin' On, where we talk about celebrity beverages. That could be anything from, hey, this is Post Malone's favorite drink, to, hey, here's how to make a great gin and tonic, and actually seeing it being made, to here's the most expensive bar tabs ever kind of a thing. Um, and then lastly, we're just starting a fashion account, and we're looking to dive into a multitude of other accounts. And so, hey, Jacob, if you know any creators that are looking to run an account, absolutely reach out. But that's kind of the birth of this media company.
You mentioned how with the sports account, I think it was you're posting 2 to 4 times a day right now, plus mansion talk, plus launch mode. How do you stay on top of all that? Because one thing I noticed when I was posting 3 to 5 times a day was I was like, I stopped focusing on making sure I was doing things properly. Like I wasn't focusing on making sure the hook was right. I wasn't like checking my analytics and paying attention to what was working. I was just so focused on getting content recorded, edited, and posted that everything else just kind of fell by the wayside. So how are you finding kind of keeping up with that level of content output?
Yeah, keeping organized can be difficult. Absolutely. I always try to plan at least 24 to 48 hours in advance of gathering assets, to knowing exactly what I'm going to talk about, to just being energized and ready for the next day, honestly. Again, because people remember who you are and how you portray yourself, and that's what really they resonate with. Um, and to be super frank, I think some of that can't really be taught. I feel like I am just kind of who I am. I've always had a high energy, and just get really excited about things I'm super passionate about. And it doesn't feel any different, but people are like, "Whoa, you have a ton of energy about this." And I'm like, "That's just who I am. I love this stuff. That's not going to change."
Why is it about the cars and mansions that drew you in? Because like you started with sports, but what was it about those two things? Like why were those the two niches you decided to go into? Sports was because that video popped and like I'm doubling down here. But out of anything in the world you could talk about, you chose cars and mansions, and I'm curious why those were the other two.
So my first love is sports. My second love, closest to sports, if not equal to sports, is cars. And then off that, actually, it was kind of off Connor's suggestions of, like, because Connor loves homes, mansions, nice houses, and I do too. But he absolutely loves it. So he's like, "Hey, let's do this kind of like new age, modern, media company on luxury. Why not do homes? I mean, you've talked about celebrity cars. Talk about celebrity homes, and talk about crazy expensive homes and big homes." And again, that kind of compounded in a sense where we could do things with yachts, we could do things with drinks, we could do things with fashion. Um, but yeah, that was kind of the initial thought process.
Were you working with brands prior to starting the media company, or did once you had kind of the media company in place, you started working with brands?
Super thankful for the multitude of opportunities that have come my way just from my own personal account. Actually, the very first promotion I did was when I had about 60,000 followers on my sports one, and it was with Overtime. And I was like on cloud nine, because Overtime is obviously a massive company, and they were just coming out with the OT app. And I was like, this is so cool, that this is a thing. And that was kind of like my first, bite of the cookie into, wow, this is something that you can monetize. And after that, it's kind of a multitude of we almost have like a internal sales team, if you will, that reaches out to brands. And I'll dive into this whenever we want to discuss it. But there's kind of two facets to the media company. One is that original content through the accounts that we start and own. And then two is that kind of like TikTok consultancy, if you will. So working with a ton of brands to ideate and strategize content, to produce original content, and even help with paid media sometimes.
Also, like boosting like TikTok ads, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, anything really TikTok related, if we've got some pretty in-depth experience with.
So talk to me then about putting that team together. What does it look like right now? You said you got a couple of the creators. I think you might have just gone through a hiring wave, if I'm not mistaken. So what does the team look like for Dapper Life right now?
So that's kind of what I talked about early on, about just kind of having these interdisciplinary skill sets. Is I'm more of the kind of creative, high level vision. Connor's very operations, financially oriented. He makes sure we're on track, doing good things, can stay alive. And then yeah, we both have been talking to a bunch of creators, and frankly people that we think would be great creators. Some of these people don't even have any prior following, but just based off of their personality, kind of what I talked about, their enthusiasm, their energy, their passion towards a specific topic, uh, they've been doing a fantastic job. So we have I guess three creators. One individual named Patrick, who runs the Anchor Life account. He has a immense love for yachts and boats and anything. in the water. And then we have a couple teams, Susie and Ryan. Susie is the one who runs the Sippin' On account, and Ryan helps kind of edit videos. He's more of like a long form and short form, frankly. Just he's a fantastic editor of videos. Um, he's got experience with YouTube and et cetera. And that's another thing that we're diving into is we've got YouTube accounts for all these accounts, and those are growing rapidly too. Um, so yeah, we just try to be really specific about who we bring on, why, and you know, with the goal of keeping them on for in the long run.
So is it just those three that you've hired so far? Like no one else behind the scenes? It's yourself, Connor, and then the three others?
We've got a couple. We've got one kind of like advisor, and then we're bringing on a couple other people. Kind of what I talked about in the sales regard of just reaching out to brands, whether it's like, hey, would you want to run promotions on any of these accounts, or do you want help with starting your own TikTok account? And creating original content for that account, because we have creators that can be the face of that account and kind of help you grow your brand presence on TikTok. So yeah, we have a couple of folks that help out with sales, too, what we call sales.
And obviously hiring people isn't cheap. So are you bootstrapping this company? Are you using all the money you're bringing in to reinvest, or are you going through the venture route again?
That's correct. Yeah, we're actually all bootstrapped right now. So through these deals, we really try to focus on long-term partnerships. Just kind of in my experience with Sports Illustrated, having a long-term partnership, because I feel like something that we always try to talk to brands about is if we just do stuff for you for a month, you'll see some results, but really, it takes 3, 4, 5 months. And so we got to have a solid partnership, a solid strategy and goal. Like, do you want to establish your brand presence? Do you want to have app downloads? Do you want to really understanding what their goals are? We can then reverse engineer and say, okay, this can be your content strategy moving forward. Here's some creators that can help with that, maybe even including myself, and kind of going from there and building out a strategy.
So how do you determine when you're talking to a brand, like, are you trying, if they come to work with you from just a promotional perspective, do you often try to flip them into that longer term partnership, even look to do some consulting with them on their own TikTok? Like when you're sitting down with a brand, how do you upsell that?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So sorry, I realized I didn't really answer your question. So we're fully bootstrapped, and it's mainly off of these long-term partnerships. So we usually focus on like kind of a month test, if you will. And then after that, we set kind of a minimum period of time, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, a year, to be their go-to kind of TikTok agency, if you will. We also sprinkle in some things with Instagram as well as YouTube, because IG Reels and YouTube Shorts we've seen massive success, even frankly just from reposting TikToks on both of those mediums. So yeah, that's kind of the goal that we do, or the kind of the path that we take. And we really aren't really looking for any investment right now, and probably going to be like that for a while.
Hey, that just means you retain more equity. So it's a great, like, there's so much, like, I don't know what the word is, but like venture seems so sexy and people kind of get drawn into that. But that means you're giving up equity, or you're selling part of your company for that. So the longer you can bootstrap and maintain as much equity as possible, the better it is for you guys.
Absolutely. I think there is a point where when we want to just absolutely accelerate and really, really grow, where we will take on money. I think it just makes sense at a certain stage. But we're growing fast. We're profitable already. Um, the people that our creators are happy. We're all happy. We're having a great time working with awesome brands, and yeah, never really looked back. It's been awesome.
And so as kind of the creative visionary person of the two co-founders, you're also one of the creators in terms of the content. So is there ever going to be a plan for you to, it's obviously you can't really do that with your personal account, but with Mansion Talk, with Launch Mode, of kind of stepping back from those to focus on the business? You know what I'm saying? Because if you have to be the creator and also the business side, it can create some bottlenecks. Like, how are you going to approach that as you guys continue to scale?
Definitely. Yeah. So I think that there'll be certain things that I really focus on. For example, I will probably hand off the reins on a couple of different accounts. I think I will, always stick with my personal account, as you mentioned. And I think I'll frankly always stick with Launch Mode, just because that's just one I'm super proud of. And again, my passion towards cars is like immense. But like I said, we're really quickly, more surprisingly than I thought, growing an audience on YouTube. And So I want to start doing, and what we're planning on doing is more like in-person stuff. We'll always have that green screen style content. That's just kind of what we're known for and what I'm known for. But we want to start, and we are starting to, kind of planning on doing these things, is reviewing cars in person, or, taking them out for a drive, and uh, you know, yeah, so on and so forth in kind of the automotive space, or going to a nice home and talking about the things in person that we talked about in green screen. And then not only putting that into long form on YouTube, but also short snippets on TikTok. And so I think that over time, just to answer your question, is I'll be really starting to focus more on the high level creative, high level strategy. How, what account spaces should we go into? What series should we do for those accounts? So on and so forth.
And with that growth that you're experiencing on YouTube right now, is that through primarily through shorts, or is that through original long form content you're doing right now?
Yeah, mainly through shorts. It's really interesting to see both platforms being Instagram and YouTube, prioritizing short form video. It's very interesting. I mean, just to be upfront, it's, now it's not massive, but in the past 60 days, we've added 2,000 subscribers just on the launch mode YouTube, which, as I'm sure you're very familiar with, subscribers are probably one of the hardest people to get. I mean, probably the hardest sort of follower, if you would call them that, to obtain and keep and retain. Um, so yeah, super proud of that, and we're excited to keep pushing out interesting content, long form and short form.
My question based off that. So my guest last week grew his YouTube like through shorts. Like he got on it really, really early and just absolutely exploded. Like he was doing, I think you in 2 months put up 2 million subscribers, or in a month or something. Like it was just insane numbers. But now what he's finding is that he's having trouble now getting those people that watch his shorts to watch his long form content. Like he's saying the conversion, it's like different audiences for short form and long forms. I'm curious if you guys have anything in mind or any plans for how you're going to kind of tackle that problem.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't heard about that. So before I started posting the shorts, I actually had some longer form. And for example, I had, again, on the topic of cars, I had this one LaFerrari when I was at Monterey Car Week, and it kind of did a cold start and scared this girl, and it has, like, 13,000 views. And um, so I think really, and I'm curious, I mean, what we could talk about in a second, but what niche that person's in, because I think that it'll be interesting to see what happens for sure. I just take a lot of, kind of my idols in the space are like the Stradman and DDE and F Spot and people like that, because we'll eventually kind of like own some nice cars and do very similar style of content. So yeah, I am interested to see kind of what the response is. We've done a few long form where we quite literally stitch together a ton of TikTok videos, and it could be specific to, like, all business mogul cars. And we talk, we have like Bill Gates, and we have, Warren Buffett in there, and it's over like 4 minutes long. And yeah, definitely the views aren't as good, but I still think long term that, again, if you just have that consistency, I'm just curious to see what happens. But that's something that we're going to kind of invest in, whether it's like actually buy a nice vehicle and do a build, or go to car events and do more like vlog style, for sure.
And are you going to be the face of the launch mode YouTube as well, like you are with the TikTok?
I think it'll be kind of like, I don't know how familiar you are with what I mentioned, DDE, it's Daily Driven Exotics, and kind of Damon Fryer is the main individual on that page, but there's also Dave, and there's a few other folks that are kind of regulars. And so I think we'll kind of have that style, because again, the Stradman, James, that's one person, but where it's more of like a company, DDE is, I think launch mode is quite similar. So we'll have myself and maybe a few other folks that are doing builds, going on road trips, just having these like interesting automotive related experiences.
And so big picture, long term, like what is the vision for Dapper Life?
I think the vision is to be a multifaceted media company that makes luxury content easily digestible and authentic. I know it's really wordy and maybe a little bit more long than I would wish, but that's just what I've seen is I mean, I feel like there's humor connected with information in a lot of my content, and that's very purposeful. I feel like there's a ton of accounts that are very, very formal in, walking through a nice home or reviewing a car, and that's great. Those are niches in themselves, but we want to really resonate with the audience and bring, like, a very authentic very little edited viewpoint on things that we're doing. If that's me seeing, being in a Lamborghini for the first time and being like, "Holy shit, this is crazy," rather than talking about like, "Hey, this is 556 horsepower and here's the brake caliper specific details." Those are two different styles of content, and we want to go with the prior and really just resonate with people that um, have fun and just enjoy those facets of life rather than like strictly are looking for the deep down nuances and details of everything.
Speaking of kind of those little details, what are some of those little things you do in your TikTok on top of like mixing in some humor there intentionally? Like, are there any other little things you do with your videos that people might not realize that you're doing? Like, for example, I've had some other people that have done TikTok on the podcast in the past where like they put random objects in their background to try and get people to comment. Like, or one guy, he increases the sound by like 50% at the beginning of the video because that he found hooks people to have louder volume right at the beginning. Are there any little subtle things you do that people might not catch on with your videos?
Definitely. So it's so funny because people think that I'm serious and um, they get so frustrated, but and I don't know if this is really a good thing, but sometimes I purposely kind of mispronounce something just because I know that people will comment and be like, "Hey, this why'd you pronounce it this way?" Blah blah blah, and there'll be a ton of engagement. And frankly, like I don't have the data to back this assumption, but I really think that helps with some virality of some videos for sure. Um, and frankly, I think that there's a kind of a similar actually marketing strategy that I think Starbucks does, where they might purposely just kind of guess your name on your cup, and so people would post it on their social media and be like, "How is this? You're not even close to spelling my name right," So it's kind of a similar thing, I think. But yeah, sometimes I just like purposely mispronounce things, and people get so mad or they like correct me, and I'm always like gracious and apologize, but really it's all purposeful, it's all planned.
How kind of on that, obviously that's planned, but like how have you handled hate on social media? Because obviously like it's going to come when you have over 1.5 million followers across your page. That's a lot of people, it's a lot of eyes, a lot of opinions. How have you found handling the hate so far?
People are brutal. I mean, on any platform. Just to be super frank, um, and early on, I really took it personally. I mean, I think everybody probably does. I think they'd be lying if they said they didn't, because that stuff hurts, even if you don't act like you don't see it or if you act like it doesn't. Because yeah, people take personal jabs, but in the end of the day, just something you kind of have to remind yourself is that it's highly likely, more often than not, that these are just young kids that are frankly kind of maybe lonely and looking for an outlet, that's just kind of how they take out their frustration. And I just kind of always remind myself, and honestly over time you just get really thick skin too. You're just kind of like, oh, they called you like a loser. I'm like, all right, yeah, sure, whatever. So I don't know, it just kind of like bounces off, but also the prior I think is to be taken into consideration as well.
Obviously the hate comments suck, but what have been kind of the flip side of that? What are some of your favorite parts of doing TikTok so far?
By far, all positive comments like saying, "Hey, I love your content," are great. But honestly, some of the things that like actually really touched me and that I will never forget is, and granted, I mean, they seemed authentic to me, and I've gotten a few comments, and this was kind of in the height of quarantine and pandemic, that people were like, "Hey, you've gotten me through this pandemic. Just your energy and your enthusiasm, and just my intrigue towards your content," being somebody else speaking there. Um, that made me feel really good and honestly makes all the haters and all the negative comments just kind of go away, because I helped somebody through like a difficult time, whether they were lonely, because I mean, I don't want to go into a dark tangent, but I mean, I think suicide rates are in youth are higher than we've ever seen. And so if I can affect somebody in a positive way, and help them laugh or smile or learn something, that I'll never stop doing what I'm doing.
That's probably something you didn't think about, like that impact when you started. When you posted that like Bulls video, that's probably not something you ever thought about, I'm assuming.
No, no, I mean, that first Bulls video, I was like, "Oh, this is a cool first viral video." I mean, maybe I'll get lucky again, but seeing the impact I've had on people in positive ways is, I mean, priceless.
What are some of those other things that kind of when you started you wouldn't have expected or wouldn't have ever thought possible, or you know what I mean? Like I talked to someone last week. I keep saying that, but he's also a TikToker, so it's just very comparable. He was saying like in LA, like one thing he didn't realize when he started was that these TikTokers are just people at the end of the day. Like he didn't realize like they seem like because there's so many followers that they're so different, but they're all just people at the end of the day. It's like, what are some of those things that you didn't realize when starting out on this journey that you know now?
That you're just a person thing is so true. To be honest, I mean, I feel like I don't have that big of a following. I mean, I know it's all relative, but I mean, I've had some totally random people like at U of O that recognize me, or friends of friends of friends of friends that had no idea I was friends of friends of friends of friends with that person, who were like, "Holy crap, I follow you!" Like, and just kind of like having those experiences are like totally bizarre. I mean, I don't consider myself celebrity status at all, but just having those weird little experiences, because I feel like just a person. I mean, it's so weird. This is another thing. It's so weird to know that you're talking to like X amount of people, that this can be pushed out to millions of people. I just feel like I'm talking to a phone, and I'm talking to myself, and I'm just having a fun time doing it. You kind of disassociate with the numbers a lot of the time. And so I think that whoever said, that we're just people, and all content creators, frankly, are just people, is so valid.
Do you remember the first time you got recognized?
No, but I remember the most recent one was, my girlfriend's little sister. She's like a freshman in high school. She was with a bunch of her friends. It was kind of near Halloween. I think they were just all hanging out or something. And my girlfriend was sent her sister a Snapchat of both of us. And a bunch of her guy friends saw me and was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! I follow that guy. Like, I love that guy's content." And then she FaceTimed us, and I spoke with like like three or four of these dudes, and it was just the coolest thing ever. I was like, "Whoa, this is so cool that you know, that these people enjoy what I do." And I just never thought I'd have that feeling or have that experience ever.
As the company continues to scale, how do you make sure you keep doing kind of the parts of the business that you love? I was listening to an interview with Ali Abdal, who's a big like productivity and personal development YouTuber from the UK. And he was saying that like he found that he started outsourcing so much because he was finding so much success that he ended up outsourcing the parts that he liked to do for the sake of like optimization. So how do you make sure that as Dapper Life continues to grow and scale, that you're able to still do the things you love that got you started in the first place?
Yeah, I think I've identified those things early. I feel like I have a pretty solid kind of self awareness of just the things that I truly, genuinely enjoy, or the things that I enjoy, but to excuse me, your point, maybe it'd be more, better use of time for somebody else to take those over. But yeah, I personally feel like I've already identified those couple things, being kind of what I mentioned, for example, my personal TikTok, and even the launch mode one, of things that I'll stick with and that I won't give up for sure. Cause those things I wake up and I'm just like ready to start the day, start making content, finding interesting stories, and et cetera, et cetera.
Dapper Life. So with those two pages and everything else, Dapper Life's not really going to be consumer facing, right? Like that's just going to kind of be the behind the scenes holding company. That's the structure of the organization right now.
As of right now, that's correct. Yeah. I think at some point we might start an account that is Dapper Life, that is a place to post all these kind of luxury items, whether it's like, it sounds a little stalkerish and weird, but like, here's everything to know about Post Malone, his favorite drink, his car, his wardrobe, stuff like that. And almost establish these like playlists and these personas of people, because people are so interested with celebrities and so interested with you know all this various different things, these items and such. And so I think it will eventually be a place, whether on YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat, even, like, or all the above, where we kind of post again, kind of a connected like amalgamation of everything.
That's perfect because it kind of leads me to my next question, which is how do you build community between your pages? You know what I mean? Like, is it going to be cross posting? Is it going to be like leaving those commenting on each other's pages with your accounts? Like, how have you guys? What's your ideas or thought process right now around developing a community around the brand as a whole, and not just having these silos of individual pages?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, we're working with a couple folks to kind of unify the branding so that it all really looks similar. So if you see a mansion talk video, you see a sipping on video, you kind of know based off the style and the watermark that it's all under the same umbrella. Number two is that we're also building a website right now that very clearly distinct, it kind of like identifies, these are our accounts, these are the creators behind them. Here's all the other mediums you can see to view other sources of content. And then just to your point, it's a freaking machine, right? We have newsletters for every account. We have Instagrams, we have YouTubes, and they all cross promote. It's just a machine that goes back and forth, because we have subscribers on YouTube that have no idea we're on TikTok. We have, people on that are subscribed to our newsletters that have no idea we have a YouTube. So we'll put a YouTube video in a newsletter. And so it kind of builds, again, to your point, this massive success. I mean, this massive sense of community between all people from all different mediums and platforms.
And then also by having this network of pages, like you talked about doing long-term partnerships with brands, now you can also package these individual pages as well into groups. So you can reach like ideally a lot of the same audience, but multiple touch points, but also scratching at different audiences as well by reaching with all these different pages.
Absolutely. And to be honest with you, a little bit of our thought process around and how we pick and choose which accounts we want to start, whether it is a car account, whether it is a fashion account, is also identifying potential brand partners, saying, hey, is there a bunch of fashion companies that are on TikTok that need help? Are there few? Both have our opportunities in itself. um, are there a bunch of tequila companies that would want to sponsor like a beverage account? So we reverse engineer and think about that, along with just, again, how can we create these long series and keep people retained, and always adding new series, always staying innovative and entertaining in a sense. So
How are you coming up with these series? Like, is there like a whiteboard session? Do you all jump on a Zoom call and just throw ideas out? Like, if you're, again, we talked about earlier, 2 to 4 times a day per page, like that's a lot of content. So, how do you come up with it all?
just what you mentioned, it could be whiteboard sessions. We highly suggest creators just use their notes app. That's something that I do. It's like, hey, I'm thinking about a new series for this account, but I mean, there is just no shortage of series of things to do. You could be as specific as, here are the ugliest wheels on celebrity cars, and that could be a whole series. Or here are here's um I mean, one that the sipping on the beverage creators thought of was, just as expensive bar tabs. I mean, geez, that was a great idea. They thought of that. They're like, let's do it. And I think that's actually one of the most popular videos, is Mark Cuban's bar tab with the Mavericks after they won the championship. So we're always just bouncing ideas off of each other, and it's just so great that we have a diversity of thought, because exactly that, there has to be no shortage of series, and frankly, thankfully, knock on wood, there hasn't been, and I don't think there ever will be, just because there's so many things to just talk about, and things that people are interested in.
And a lot of the content right now, in terms of like content creation output, you said it's the green screen style content. So the text, the what's behind you on the green screen is normally an article which highlights whatever the topic of the video is. Is that original content that you guys have written that you're pushing people to, or is that other content you're kind of just curating right now?
Both. So back to the kind of massive cycle that we talked about, the machine. uh, that's exactly right. So on we have a launch mode newsletter where we, on our own time, try to find exactly what's in these celebrity garages, and I'll actually use that as green screen, and then I'll promote, hey, we this is from our newsletter, check it out. But then, yeah, a lot of things, such as the stories that I do on my sports account, are sourced from various different authors, and I always make sure to cite them. But yeah, that stuff isn't original as of right now.
How do you balance, like, with that newsletter idea, like, hey, this is in our newsletter? How do you balance giving people original content on all the different platforms, but also trying to cross pollinate? Because if it's a lot of like, hey, you can watch this on our YouTube or check this on TikTok or a newsletter, like, I'm already here, I'm already seeing it, why would I go elsewhere? So how do you balance providing unique value on one platform, but also not wanting, like, having a content idea that you also can share to other platforms? Like, how do you balance that?
If I'm understanding correctly, we kind of cross promote a handful of times during the week. Again, the output's so crazy that uh, people don't seem to shy away from a few different cross promotions here and there a week. If you're producing 30 pieces of content a week, if you cross promote 3 or 4 times, people don't really blink an eyeball, and frankly, actually kind of like saying like, "Hey, oh yeah, I forgot you had a newsletter. Great, I'll go subscribe." Um, so I think that's I think that's probably the most important thing, is just making sure we continue with the high volume of content output, and just kind of sneaking in a few promotions that feel natural. So if we're talking about Travis Scott's car collection, great. Maybe somebody loves Travis Scott. Here's what he likes to drink, or here's what he's wearing in this specific photo. Go check out that account. So just being strategic with that cross pollination too works really well.
So if you were to just say like how much you're allocating your time on each platform, TikTok number one, YouTube two, newsletter three, or what's kind of the breakdown right now?
Yeah, so I actually don't write the newsletter articles, so I would say very minimal there. That's another team member. But I would say, I mean, TikTok by far, for sure. And then actually right now, we're just reposting kind of what we just talked about, those TikToks on Reels, and also on YouTube Shorts. Uh, but I would say it's a combination of Instagram and YouTube in second, probably tied, because we are doing longer form things, whether it's we're going to a nice car museum and get a tour or something like that, or we're driving a nice car, to, hey, we're checking out this cool house that we have. We have a relationship with a agent of a luxury listing or something like that. and we're getting photos for Instagram, we're getting long form video for YouTube. But yeah, I would say it's definitely one is TikTok, two is those two tied, and then third is kind of a few different things.
So walk me through what your day looks like as the founder and creator within this media company. You wake up when, you go to bed when, what happens in between those two times?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So I wake up, probably wake up at 6 or 7 a.m. I usually hit the gym first. Um, and I get home. I start filming my content in the morning. And kind of what that looks like is I would have gathered those assets the night prior. So I'd film all those videos. And then I usually start posting on all accounts around noon to 1 p.m. And then it's usually like an hour to 2 hours after that is I keep kind of posting. Um, excuse me. And by about, I don't know, 6 or 7, I kind of wind down. I might hit the gym again. I'll probably make dinner. But then I'll start after dinner, usually when I'm kind of, I pop on like, I don't know, Netflix show I like a Narcos recently. It's kind of a fun show, interesting show. Um, and I'll just kind of start ideating for the next day and start gathering assets. Whether that's looking up stories, whether that's searching, what cars people own, whatever it might be, just looking for interesting things that I can talk about the next day and gathering those assets. And also mixed in there is calls with clients, is um, sort of like pitches to new clients, if you will. There's no shortage of people reaching out, wanting either a face to their brand or some sort of strategy and ideation help, or even just to promote and on our specific pages. So, yeah, and we're very thankful that's the case. I think it's kind of a matter of right place, right time.
I've heard elsewhere you say that you often spread yourself too thin. How do you make sure you don't do that in this case?
In the past, that was a big learning of mine for sure. And kind of feeding off of that is, again, goes back to the hiring of being very strategic with people's uh, in terms of hiring people and their skill sets. Um, because there was times where I would try to edit long form YouTube videos, and that is not my skill set. And what might take, now that we have Ryan on, him 30 minutes, it would take me like 3 hours. Adobe Premiere. I mean, Premiere is a very complex thing. Um, he's just a mastermind at that. And so whether it's that, whether it's people helping me gather assets for the next day, or people sending me articles or stories or things to do. But yeah, really just focusing on how efficient we can be, but also not, having quality affect that efficiency. Because we always want to put out the most highest quality things. And frankly, honestly, TikTok isn't super high quality in a sense, but just in terms of how I put out the story, or is everything correct in terms of the information, that can be hard sometimes. But to answer your question, definitely bringing on skilled people in an efficient way that they do things that they do best, and I do things that I do best.
What are some of those other things you learned, whether it be with Fleet Nurse or Shred or even Duck Ventures, that have helped you when either setting up this business, running this business day to day? Like, what are some of those lessons that you've taken from those previous ventures that apply now?
Have consistency, and that's not just from a content perspective, but just in how you treat clients, just in how you treat people. Um, if always try to lead with good, in my opinion. It's I've always, there's been past experiences where I think that might have been some malintent, but you always just lead with the kind of best judgment, and that people are generally good. Most people are good people, and so I'm always pretty positive about that. And there's always, we can come to some sort of agreement on something, whether it's volume of content, whether it's hey, let's kind of retry this piece of content, or let's retry this, rework this contract, whatever it might be. Just kind of leading with respect and being nice, honestly, has definitely paid dividends in building relationships and keeping those relationships, frankly. Um, and then more specifically is wait to wait to establish yourself as a legal registered entity as long as possible, to be completely honest. Because it gets a lot more complex in terms of like doing your taxes and remembering all the little ancillary fees, and sometimes if you forget those, you get a nice little letter from you know the IRS or something. I mean, it's like just things that as a young kid you're like, wow, this is really scary, but I'm glad I'm learning this now. because that just makes you a better business person and makes you prepared for those scary things. And honestly, yeah, I would also say another thing is like, this is really specific, but do not get into the patent space unless you are absolutely sure it's a novel concept. Because early on in Shred and other things, we spent a lot of personal money trying to figure something out and kind of garnering IP when we probably could have waited. Um, so yeah, just a couple nuggets right there.
How often do you look back on the entire journey? You know, even back that 5-year-old kid whose dream school was Oregon, to going to Oregon, to starting these groups at school, to your first couple ventures, to now with Dapper Life and all your TikTok pages. Like, how often do you look back on the whole journey?
Not enough. Maybe sometimes when I'm in the shower, just getting nostalgic, I feel like that's kind of like my place to think and where I don't have to have my face in front of a screen or don't have to be talking to somebody. It's just me in there. And that sounds really weird, but I'm sure that's other people's place too. But yeah, I think I don't know. I think one of the most powerful things is finding where you can be by yourself, thinking your own thoughts, and not being distracted by the bajillion things that are fiending for your distraction in such a digital world. Whether that's driving by yourself in a car, whether that's at the gym, whether that's in the shower. Um, and so I don't think I think about the journey enough because I try to really, this sounds super cliche, but I really try to enjoy the moment. And I truly try to just get everything in one day that I'm most happy with. And um, sometimes I do, yeah. Sometimes you do just kind of sit back and we're like, wow, it's been a wild journey. I've learned a lot, I've experienced a lot, and I feel like I'm still doing that. And I'm still super young and um, thankful for every up and down that I've been through for sure.
Before I let you go, I'm going to ask you the same standard set of questions I ask everyone at the end of every interview. First one being, you're going to dinner. You can take 3 people. It could be anybody dead or alive. Who do you take to dinner?
Elon Musk, LeBron James, and probably my grandfather.
What's some of the best advice you've ever been given?
Probably something like just imagine if it could be better, because just as you mentioned, it's like you kind of don't really think about what you're doing in the moment. And it just sounds super trite and cliche, but there are just a couple people who are like, "Hey, you're on cloud nine right now. You're killing it, but just imagine if it could be better." And I'm just like, it kind of pushes you to amp it up even more and keep working hard and keep going. It is good to celebrate, absolutely, but almost use that celebratory testosterone in a sense, or maybe not testosterone, but celebratory energy to like compound that and keep going.
I like that. I'm a believer that people don't dream big enough.
I totally agree. It's like, wow, I just did something I'd never done. And then, well, think about if you did it double that or triple that, or if you grew even bigger or something.
What's one thing about you people wouldn't expect?
Oh, I'm going to shock you here. You ready? Um, I am super introverted. I love my independent time. I love time by myself. Frankly, I have an apartment all to myself, and I love it like that. I don't have pets or anything. To be frank, I was an only child, but I feel like when people view me on TikTok or people talk to me like we're talking right now, or I meet new people, they're like, "Holy crap, you're so outgoing and stuff." But I think I'm probably one of the happiest people when I'm like with one friend, or frankly, if I'm just by myself. I love my alone time.
What's one thing that's so important everybody needs to know?
You won't know unless you try, honestly. I mean, kind of goes back to the very first video. Who would have known I'd be here after that one weird, funky video that just kind of blew up? And um, the way I got there was I just tried it out. People, again, it's not anything original, but people are just so hesitant to even try without knowing the outcome. And if you don't know the outcome in with absolute certainty, then I think you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't try.
For my last question, I like to flip the script a little bit. So instead of me asking the question, it's you asking the question, but it's not to me. Pretend you have a crystal ball. You can ask this crystal ball any question, you'll get the 100% honest answer. What is one question you want to know the answer to?
How does it pan out?
I like that. That's a good question. Simple question, but it's a good question. But I want to thank you so much, man, for taking time to come on the podcast. I want to give you the floor. And I know we've talked about all the different handles and all the different things, but where can the people find you? Plug anything and everything you got right now.
As we talked about TikTok a lot, my main TikTok is at Adam P. Faris, and that's Faris spelled like Paris, but with an F, not like Ferris Bueller. Um, Same thing on Instagram. And yeah, if you want to talk more personally rather than, because a lot of those couple places are just a lot of content. Um, Feel free to add me on LinkedIn and connect with me, Adam Faris, same kind of thing. And happy to chat with anybody and everybody. Love meeting people, love connecting. Despite me just saying I'm introverted, I love meeting new people. I genuinely do, and yeah, best places for sure.
Awesome, man. Well, I want to thank you once again for taking time to be on the podcast. I want to thank everybody for listening, whether you listen the entire way through or you only listen to bits and pieces. I really appreciate taking time to check this out. Everyone do me a big favor. Go and follow Adam. Go and follow all of the lineup of accounts they have at Dapper Life. We'll make sure everything's linked in the show notes down below. If you'd like to follow me, you can find me everywhere on social media at the Jacob Kelly. Feel free to come and say hello. My DMs are always open. As always, today's podcast is powered by TRUFAN. Thank you once again for listening. We'll talk soon.